that address any other candidate throughout the evening, the other candidate will have a 30-second rebuttal or a chance to address that. It won't continue to go back and forth. So candidate A says something about B, B gets to respond, and then it's done. We do have a candidate speaker tonight. That is Mr. Doug Lloyd. He is running for Attorney General. If you would please come on up, Doug, and deliver some remarks.
Good evening, everyone. I am Doug Lloyd. I'm here to tell you how I'm working hard to be your next Attorney General. Everybody know how the state and federal constitution starts out? It starts out, we the people. If you're going to be the Attorney General, the chief legal officer of the state, you better understand that your job is to protect the rights, defend the state, and actually provide good legal counsel. And in no time should you ever hear the word I. You're there to represent the people, all 10 million people of them. The only time you're going to ever hear I from me is the expectations you can have for me, because I have them for myself. I am going to defend your God-given constitutional rights. I do that on a daily basis. I'll continue to do it as your Attorney General. I am going to make sure that if we are going to bring a civil or criminal suit, we are going to do it on the law and the Constitution. Political activism, political lawfare, those words are dead first day in the office. Corruption, fraud, government overreach, election fraud, well, those will be prosecuted by my office without fear, favor, or political bias. And the most important thing is that I will remember that Michigan is about the people first, always. Now you might ask, well, Doug, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to tell you it's going to happen by experience and leadership. See, I've already dealt with government overreach. I dealt with the COVID vaccination, or the COVID as the elected prosecutor. In 2020, I refused to make those mandates in my office in regards to the COVID vaccine. That was left up to individuals. And I refused to actually go with the governor and the Attorney General when they tried to make the local prosecutor their private police force. I refused those government mandates because I knew they were unconstitutional, and I knew that those small businesses that were out there, they were only trying to survive. When we talk about actually working with the law, we'll see I've actually prosecuted cases. I prosecuted drug dealers, I prosecuted rapists, I prosecuted murderers, and I've even prosecuted corrupt politicians. I actually know how the law works, and I know that it means that you actually have to prosecute on the law itself. And that's why I've been endorsed by 60 prosecutors, almost 30 sheriffs, countless retired judges and prosecutors, because they understand that it's not about just talking about the law. You have to actually have had to live it. And when you're going to be the chief legal counsel officer of the state, you better be able to provide good legal advice. Ask your local legislature if they ever see that attorney general on the House floor. Are they helping actually provide good conservative law? Well, see, I've done that. I've testified in the legislature against bad law, and I've helped the legislature actually create good law. That's why I've been endorsed by former Senator Rick Jones, former House Judiciary Chair Graham Filler, and our current Judiciary Chair Sarah Lightner. Because they understand if we want to actually have good law in this state, it's going to take the Attorney General's guidance to actually make that happen. So ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see Jessica come up here in about 5 seconds, so I'll let you know. If you're actually looking for a fighter, someone who understands that this isn't about hashtags or headlines, it's about duty, it's about justice. If you're looking for someone who has integrity, accountability, and proven conservative leadership, then I'm asking you for your support. Because, see, ladies and gentlemen, I got into this race because I understand that Michigan deserves better. And together, we can bring back accountability and integrity to the Attorney General's office. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. The next person I would like to bring up is Katie Niss. I also want to say a public thank you to Katie. She was my ground lead here, and I couldn't have done this without you, so thank you.
Welcome to Grand Traverse County, the largest county in the 1st Congressional District. And so we're thankful that you are here tonight and joining us, and we're thankful for our candidates for the very long drive from all the way from downstate. We don't get visited up here very often by our candidates, so we're also very grateful. to be able to meet and greet with everybody that is here tonight. So tonight I am just going to lead us in a prayer and pledge before we get started. But before we do that, I just wanted to let you know too that I know that we have had to turn some people because we are sold out, so that's fantastic. We are going to be, this debate tonight will be live streamed on themidwesterner.com, or if you're on Facebook, you can go to our Facebook page, Grand Traverse County Republicans. But there is a live stream, so if you have friends and family that wanted to be here or couldn't, you can send them a quick message and let them know that it is live streamed so they get a chance to participate. All right, so let's bow our heads in prayer. Heavenly gracious Father, we just thank you so much for the opportunity for us to meet here tonight with like minds and like hearts for our country. Lord, we thank you for the United States and for the blessing that you put over our country again. Lord, we pray for a hedge of protection over our President Donald Trump. We pray for the leaders that he is guiding. We pray for wisdom. We pray for fellowship and for working together to save our country. Lord, we also pray for the same hedge of protection around our state and the leaders who lead us in Lansing. Lord, we just pray that our movement and the Republican Party can rise up and your name be known in Michigan as we work hard to take Michigan back. Lord, I just thank you for this opportunity for our governor's debate tonight. I pray for a meaningful, thoughtful debate that hearts can be decided and won over to which candidate you feel is best to lead our state. Lord, I just pray for traveling mercies as we leave tonight. In your name, amen. Amen. All right, and before we do the pledge, do we have any, if you're a veteran, will you please stand so we can thank you? If you're a veteran, military veterans. Thank you for your service. Now the rest of us stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Katie. Okay, we have one more person that's going to speak before the debate gets rolling, but before I have him come up, all of you should have a paper on your table that looks like this. As you all know, it takes a lot of money to dabble in campaigns and getting the candidates across the finish line and making sure that the Republicans are the ones that are giving us a red wave. So if any of you feel it in your heart to give us an added donation today, you can just scan this QR code on your table, and that will definitely help us for 2026 and the candidates. Next is Chairman Jim Runstead. He's going to deliver a few remarks.
Thank you, Jessica. And a couple of housekeeping things I want to make sure I mentioned before I get started. But make sure, if you haven't been on the website's been completely redesigned, and it also has for all the districts that you can add in your events. So make sure and go in there, look around on the website. But most importantly, when you do go in there, the first thing you'll see in the center is to put in your email, so you'll get our emails. We're sending our emails out every couple of days, and that way you will be put on the email list. Also was informed tonight that Turning Point USA has appointed 2 new young firebrand, hardworking people here in this area, and they are Brianna Grasick and Cameron Dundas. If you would stand up. It's exciting to see more and more young people that are getting involved with the Republican Party since Charlie's influence. It's just been an unbelievable, just incredible passion that I'm seeing out there. I've been to so many events with so many more young people than I've ever seen before. And this is our last debate this year, and I'm so happy that we completely sold the event out like the other 3. And It's so critical that we hear from these candidates because Michigan is in absolute disarray. We are losing population. I think we're second only to West Virginia. Second highest unemployment in the nation, 5.4, something along those lines. We have some of the worst education outcomes in the whole nation. I've heard we're somewhere between number 12 and 5th in spending, and we're near the bottom at almost every matrix. And I think it's because of the teachers union, the stuff that they're propagating in this state, this social engineering, this horrible garbage, child pornography, all of the stuff they're putting in schools that has got to be stopped, and we turn around and we go back to the reading, writing, and arithmetic that has to be done. There is so much to be done in here. The business climate since the Democrats took over has been just unbelievable. I've been in the legislature through it all. The horror of what they've been doing to our small businesses is just beyond the pale. So it's wonderful that we're going to have an opportunity to hear from these candidates tonight, find out what their vision is, what they are going to be doing to turn this thing around. As to the state party, we are rebuilding. Yeah, everyone here knows we started with a lot of debt and very little in the fund balance, but we have been paying our bills. I raised over $1 million between keeping the doors open in the Immaculate Conference Center. And that conference, the Immaculate Conference, was spectacular. We didn't know how it was going to work. We had a skeletal little team of people working, but it absolutely was fabulous. We are having an endorsement convention. I don't know if you're aware of that. That is going to be endorsing the candidates for Secretary of State, Attorney General, Supreme Court, the State Board of Education, the trustees, regents, and the universities. And that's going to be on March 28th. And the reason that we're doing that is because the Democrats do theirs in February, and then we wait all the way to 2 weeks after the August primary. And they're fighting and spending money that whole time on the Republican side. They established it in February, and they're building name ID, raising money, so we are so far behind the 8 ball. So it's going to be on March the 28th. That's going to be a suburban showcase. I was just on the phone with them today. We're trying to keep the costs as low as we can. They are very good at working with us, so we're real pleased with the progress on that. In February, there's the 35th Senate District that's in that Midland area. We've got to pick that up. If we can pick that up, we can tie the Democrats in the Senate, and we still have the House. That would be fabulous. When I'm at the RNC, at every single event that I go to the entire 200 people at the committee, they say number one in the state, in the nation, the U.S. Senate race, and they'll put a slide up, is Michigan. And then they pull up the governor's race, the number one governor's race in the nation is Michigan. And then they pull up the congressional states. One state has 3 of the 11 congressional races that are in play, and that is Michigan. Every single time, Michigan, Michigan, Michigan. Michigan is the most important state this cycle. We're going to have the administration in here, a lot of visits from the president, but we have to pull together. The one thing I've been saying over and over, how proud I am of the committee. When I would go to the events at RNC, when I first went, they said, oh, you're the guys that kick balls and slap and fight. And I mean, we were a laughingstock because a lot of the videos came out of all this garbage, and it went viral. So the whole nation was watching this stuff, and we were just a laughingstock. And the committee has been just doing a wonderful job. They might disagree, but it's respectful. And then we come to an agreement, then everybody moves on. That's the way it should be, and that's the way it has to be here in every county, in every district. Everybody treat people with respect and understand we're all taking our time and doing this for the right reason. Let's focus on what the real problem is, and that's the rot and the evil of the Democrat policies and what they're doing to us. And I want to wrap up by one of the things they said is that 29 in the last 33 cycles, the administration in power loses in the off-year election. So we have got to do the work in Michigan. Michigan is the linchpin. We can make sure we're one of those victories this next year if everybody is pulling in the same direction. So that's what I'm asking everybody to do. Keep your eyes on what is so important in this election. And thank you all for turning out tonight.
the candidates, though, to please come up. If you need me to refresh you on your order, let me know. While they're walking up, I want us all to give a big thank you to Jarrett Scarup and Dave Bondi, our moderators tonight. Dave is an independent journalist. I believe he's also with the Mackinac Policy Center, and Jarrett is also with the Mackinac Policy Center, so thank you for helping us with this tonight.
Can you select that shit? What's that? Was it in the front? Yeah, I should do it. No. Yeah. Are you okay? Yeah.
All right, we're going to start off with a question for everyone. So we'll go down the line here, starting with Mr. Cox. And you all should know better watching these. I'm sorry. We're going to do the opening statements first. But you should all know better watching presidential debates. Don't applaud the moderators till you get through the whole thing. Go ahead, Mr. Cox.
Thank you. Oh. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here tonight. You know, there was a time when Michigan was great. In fact, my parents are immigrants from Ireland. And they both came here and met here because they both believed that Michigan was the greatest state and the greatest nation. My dad was a carpenter, my mom was a maid. And they knew if they came to Michigan as working people, they could have their own home in a safe neighborhood, good schools, and they know that each and every one of their children could get ahead. That was a promise of Michigan, and Michigan used to deliver on that. How many people, young people, can say that now? Our Michigan has fallen. We're in football season. We're told by football coaches, you are what your record says you are. We're second or third in unemployment each and every month. Worst job creation record since Gretchen Whitmer increased the income tax. Our fourth graders read at a level that only 2 states are below. That's 48th in the country. My parents taught me to do what was right and fight for it. That's why I joined the Marine Corps. That's why I became a homicide prosecutor for 13 years. That's why when I ran and won and beat Gary Peters, the only Republican who's ever beat him, and became Attorney General, the closest statewide race in 100 years, I fought for big things, eliminating giving driver's license to illegals. I fought against DEI by working to get an affirmative action ban into our Constitution. I took on our conservative fights and I delivered. And in the private sector, I built my own business from $0 to $40 million a year. I've been trained as a leader by the United States Marine Corps. And I'm very, very proud to have served, and they gave me the ability and the toughness to win and to fight. Like the president, I believe in fighting and winning. As your governor, I will do that. If you go to my website, MikeCox2026.com, you will see my full plan, and we'll talk about it tonight. But with your help, once again, Republicans will lead. Once again, our state will become prosperous again. Once again, we will become safe again. And once again, Michigan will be great again. Thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you all very much for having us. And you're going to have to bear with me. I lost my voice 3 days ago. It is coming back, and it's going to hold up over the next 90 minutes, okay? But I got 2 numbers for you right now. 347 in 12. We are less than 347 days and 12 hours from taking back our state from the Democrats. And my friends, we have to. When you look at the state of this state right now, the only state that Michigan beat for population growth the first 2 decades of this century, West Virginia. We are 49 out of 50 in unemployment. Just this week, we finally hit bottom 10 for income growth, and we are continuing to drop. 25%, a quarter of the people in this state, suffer from some type of mental health issue. Half of them are not getting the treatment that they need. 10% of the high schoolers in this state, at some point in the last 2 years, have tried committing suicide. My friends, one of my biggest fears is that one day one of my kids is going to come to me and they're going to say, Dad, I would love to stay here in the greatest state in the entire country, but unfortunately there's no opportunity for me here in Michigan. And the last thing that I want, and I know that all of you want, is to see our families torn apart because our kids and our grandkids have to leave this state for better opportunity. That should never happen. It's going to take the right vision. It's going to take the right plan. That is why several weeks ago we released the path forward. It's our transparent, positive vision for how I believe we turn our state around. Again, we are only going to be able to do this through a positive vision. Tonight, you're not going to hear me talk about many candidates because, frankly, the problems that we face are bigger than any one person that's running for office. I'm here to tackle problems. That's what you're going to hear me talk about tonight.
Thank you for coming tonight. When President Trump took office, you remember that freedom was reverberated all around the world. In fact, there were nations that were lining up to speak with him. Nations that had been at war with each other came together, signed peace treaties, but he has brought to our nation $20 trillion in business. That has inspired the next generation in the American dream. Friends, that's amazing, and that's just absolutely cool. I was speaking with a guy from Europe at Mar-a-Lago last Thursday, and he said that we are cheering for America to win, because when America reaches the top, all the other nations come up with it. As I've traveled around the country, or the state here, folks, and asked this question, what concerns you the most about what's going on in Michigan? People have said either it's the economy, it's education, or it's the budget. The interesting thing is, as I have traveled, I want you to know that in my life, I have seen so much going on that my generation, and many people in this room have said that it's our generation that has dropped the ball for this next generation. I am convinced that if we bring back common sense policies, if we bring back truth, if we bring back the budget and all the discussions related to that, we will turn this state around. Friends, I knew Charlie Kirk personally. He served on the Council for National Policy with me. I've gone to his pastor summits, and one of the things that he said was he wanted pastors to run for office. And the reason why is he knew that if you were a pastor who had courage, who had truth on your side, that you would be unstoppable as well as not purchasable. Nobody can buy you off. So our campaign in the last 8 weeks has gone from just an announcement to actually a movement. And we would invite you to join with us as we get this thing done.
Well, thanks for coming out, and thank all of you for coming out to all three of the debates, my colleagues here on stage. Unfortunately, one person hasn't been to any of them, John James. He's 0-3 right now. He's been dodging debates longer than the Democrats had the government shut down. And that's wrong. You expect to hear from all of us. I'm running for office as somebody that wants to make it easier for families, for small business owners, and most importantly, our kids to make it here in Michigan. Running to stand with President Trump to ban sanctuary cities and make it more affordable to live here in Michigan. I'm Eric Nesbitt from Southwest Michigan, grew up on a 6th-generation dairy and grape farm. I know the values of hard work. I grew up in a house with no air conditioning. I know about faith, family, and patriotism. I went to Hillsdale College. I did my degree in economics there. Married the love of my life, Tricia. I have 3 wonderful kids. And that's where it starts and why I'm running for governor. During the COVID lockdowns 5 years ago, we were expecting our second kid. Went to the OB's office. Because of Governor Whitmer and the Democrats and their policies, I couldn't go into that office. I had to wait in the car, and I got a text from my wife saying that we lost our second child to a miscarriage. The worst thing that could happen to a parent, the worst thing that could happen to a mother, happened to us. Is your next governor that will never happen again. And that story is not uncommon. It's tough for families to make it here in Michigan with the high cost of living. We need to lower the cost of energy, lower the cost of insurance, lower the cost of housing. We need to have job creators make it here in Michigan. We need to take a flamethrower to the bureaucratic red tape Whitmer's taken on. And we need to make it easier for our kids to make it here in Michigan. That means we get the DEI out of our schools, the wokeness out of our schools, and the ABCs back in. Let's make it in Michigan again.
on? Oh, let me borrow yours for a second. My name is Anthony Hudson, known as the Why Not guy across the state of Michigan. Why Not is Tony spelled backwards, just in case you didn't know. And I'm not the most liked guy because I talk to you in a different way, a real way, not like a career politician. We hear what they're saying. The funny thing for me is I've heard it all before. Where's the results? Our state is where it's at because we've elected the wrong people that haven't done the job that we elected them to do. I'll tell you the truth, the politics in the state of Michigan suck. We have to get outside the box. The vision I have for the state of Michigan is a vision that you've never seen before in any of your lives. For once, the state of Michigan can be a leader by eliminating property taxes and be the first state to do it. We hear people moving out of the state, but we don't hear why. We don't hear how we're going to get them back. Well, when you get rid of property taxes, folks, you're telling the country that the state of Michigan is open for business. Bring your businesses back. Own your business. Own your homes outright. When that happens, the jobs come back. We go ahead and eliminate the state income taxes. That tells the people who left the state, hey, I get a 2-for-1. I get no property taxes and no state income tax. I'm moving back to Michigan. Get rid of our nasty no-fault car insurance. Most of you don't realize we were an at-fault state in 1975, and we let ignorant people come in and sell the idea of no fault, and we're all paying way too much for insurance, whether it's our fault or not. The other issue is we have unconstitutional red flag gun laws that were put into place that violate every one of our constitutional rights to carry in the state of Michigan. We need to be a constitutional carry state. And we need permanent plates on our vehicles so that we can enjoy our birthday and not get a bill from the state that says you owe me money for absolutely nothing. So if you ask me why I'm running for governor, it's because I have a bold vision for the state of Michigan. And why not?
This one I think is working okay.
Figured it out.
It's just the right touch. Hi, folks. I am fed up with Lansing. I am fed up with no representation. I am fed up with budget increases, and I am fed up with property taxes that steal our homes. Government spending is out of control. We, the people, can no longer afford our government. We are bankrupt, in debt, and we do not have a balanced budget. We are building splash pads and pickleball courts while homelessness walks our streets. Michigan needs thorough investigation and reform of every department, agency, committee, and program. This means purpose, personnel, finances, and accomplishments. Michigan is near the bottom of everything measurable. School results, gross domestic production, and economic growth. However, we are the leader in corporate handouts, utility costs, unemployment, welfare, and the number of people and businesses leaving for more affordability. Career politicians take money and direction from lobbyists, large corporations, utility companies, and out-of-state donors. They do not hear or represent us. It is time to elect a business owner with a vested interest in making Michigan work. A restaurant owner who employs people, manages payroll, orders inventory, and pays taxes. A licensed contractor who designs blueprints, builds budgets and homes. A tax preparer who recognizes the inequalities and contradictions of our state income tax returns. A person who volunteered to wear the uniform of a deputy to protect our communities. I grew up on a farm. I know firsthand the struggles, the gratification, and extreme importance of that life. A person like you who works to afford, I am like a person like you, who works to afford food, gas, utilities, insurance, and taxes after being deemed non-essential by the very government that exists by taxing the fruits of my labor. Michigan needs a business leader. I will be the CEO who puts you first. Let's change Michigan together. I am that change. Vote Carla Wagner, 2026.
Thank you very much, everyone. Let's start it off here. I have a big social media following. Someone just messaged me today and said they're leaving Michigan. They grew up here, they're gone. They're moving in a month. And a lot of you have already said it already. Michigan, 49th out of the 50 states when it comes to population growth. How do we turn it around? But also, do you have a model for how Michigan should do this? Is there another state out there or an approach? Mr. Cox.
Thank you. Tom, you turned it off on me. Thank you. Yes, I do. Brother Tom mentioned that he worried about his children leaving. Well, 3 of my 4 children have left already for better opportunities elsewhere. So I know it, the pain, as does my wife and my mother-in-law and our family. What's the model? The model is, number 1, let's eliminate the income tax. I'm the only one who's running for governor who's actually took the no tax pledge of Americans for Tax Reform, which means I'm not going to eliminate your income tax and then stick you with fees or a county tax or something somewhere else. Why do I say eliminate the income tax? Because the fastest growing states in the country, 9 of them, Texas, Florida, Tennessee, Wyoming, South Dakota, they've all eliminated the income tax. If you care about the future of crypto and what it means for our economy, they're all going to states without income tax. And I can explain that later on. What's my model? Well, there's a state called Mississippi, which I can't believe would ever have been my model. Can you believe that? But you know, in 2013, when one of my granddaughters was going to 1st grade, they passed the reading retention law. They were 49th in the country. They're now 9th. They're eliminating their income tax. One of my granddaughters graduated Memorial Day weekend. Her class had 335 kids in it. Her sister in 9th grade had 500 in the little town of Hernando, Mississippi. What do? They're promising young people this is a place to come to and grow with. With me as governor and you part of the team, that will be our state. We'll eliminate the income tax. We'll bring back right to work, which encourages business to come here, which says that we won't discriminate against any job. We'll welcome all jobs. We'll doge Michigan government, which I've done before as Attorney General. I actually reduced the size of my office by 21%. Who in government ever does that? Based on my private business background, my experience running a state department, and quite frankly, being a Marine, I will charge the hill, and I will bring those children and grandchildren back to Michigan with your help. Thank you very much for the question.
And thank you, Mr. Leonard.
So that is exactly why that plan is on every one of your tables. And that is the exact question I'm going to ask every time a piece of legislation hits my desk. And that question is going to be, if I sign this, is it going to help keep our children here and keep our families together? Mike mentioned right to work. 9 of the top 10 growth states in this country right now are right to work states. We need to make Michigan a right to work state immediately. 6 of the top 10 states. 6 of the top 10 states either have no income tax at all or substantially lower income tax than Michigan. But regulatory reform. Michigan is one of 2 states in the entire country right now, us in New Jersey, that allows our Department of Environmental Quality to go onto a farmer's field, find a mud puddle, and say, you can't do anything here. Education. Did you know right now 75% of the 4th graders in our schools right now cannot read at a proficient level? I had a reporter ask me what would be the top issue that I would focus on if I'm the state's next governor, and I said education. That right there is our foundation, it is our base, and I am sick and tired of watching the Democrats take the lead on this issue. We've got to address this 3rd grade reading crisis. But you know what? We've also got to stop the wokeism and all these issues that are going on in these public schools right now. I don't know if you saw what happened in the Rockford School District or read about it, but my blood was actually boiling when I heard about this. A school was transitioning a young child without the parents' consent and knowledge. When I heard about this, my first question was, why isn't this criminal? Not one state in the entire country makes it criminal. Our plan, if you pick it up and read it, calls for Michigan becoming the first state where you go to jail if you transition somebody's child without their consent.
Same question. There are three things that I would do. I would drastically reduce the budget, drastically reduce government, and I would also remove property taxes. Now, the reason why I say that is because unless we make Michigan affordable, we will never get people to stay, and we will never attract people here. So how do we reduce the government? Well, there are so many departments that I would immediately have my hatchet out. If you cannot FOIA this department, if you cannot show up at their meetings, and if they don't have open records, friends, those are already suspect. Those are just about everything. The MEDC, the SOAR, all of the things that Whitmer's pet projects are like that. And so they sign non-disclosure agreements. You have no idea what's going on. And so the bottom line is we have to get rid of the unelected bureaucrats that are here in our state. My plan has first of all, in terms of the budget, my plan would be to get rid of 2,000 employees that are unelected bureaucrats. We have to reduce that regulatory state that's just out of control. Pardon me? Yeah, we might want to get rid of that. We have to get rid of those people. They're the ones that cause trouble for you. They're the people that come into your neighborhoods and they want to rule your lives. They're part of the DNR, Eagle, and MDAR. The thing is, folks, if we get rid of, if we institute conservation districts, which have been around since the 1930s, we will have the opportunity to cut DNR, MDAR, and Eagle by half. It's incredible. There is a plan and there's an ability to do that. And so I'm here to tell you that if we reduce the budget, if we end property taxes, and if we reduce the budget and property taxes and have, get rid of people, that we'll do it. Sorry about that.
Boy, Governor Whitmer and the Democrats in Lansing have done a number for this state. We can't afford to have a lost decade every other decade. It's tough for families, for small businesses, and most of all their kids to make it in Michigan right now. I was in Grayling a few months ago. There's a guy that actually moved from Tennessee to Michigan. You don't find too many of those guys. And I was having a conversation with him, and he goes, I started adding up the cost of insurance, cost of taxes, cost of my electric bill. And it came up to be about $5,000 more per year just to have the privilege of living in Michigan. And I don't know about you, but as a farm boy, $5,000 is a lot of money. So we got to lower that cost of living here. And you look at what does that mean? That means repealing this Green New Standard the Democrats passed a few years ago. That's industrializing 300,000 acres of our farm and forest land while sticking the average family in Michigan with another $2,500 bill. Enough of having people pay their electricity bills on their credit card. We got to lower the cost. We got to lower the cost of insurance. We got to lower the cost of housing. The average house, new house, just because of government regulations, $95,000. I don't know about you, but that's a lot of money. You want affordable housing? You get vocational education back. You kick out criminal illegal aliens. Stand with President Trump. And you make sure you deregulate a lot of these areas that are regulated right now. Job creators. The bureaucratic red tape that is coming in from Lansing is insane. Eagle, the DNR. I was talking to a guy building a restaurant down in Wayne County, and he said there's a commercial area, $6 million investment he was trying to build. There's a mud puddle out back. Whitmer's bureaucrats came in and said that mud puddle's a wetland, you're not going to get a permit. $6 million investment never happened. Time after time after time. You see entrepreneurs and people wanting to invest in this state. Believe me, we have a beautiful state. Yet Indiana's grown by 1 million people the last 25 years, and we've barely grown an inch. Why? Policies matter. Come on.
Can you repeat the question, Dave?
Yeah, Florida, very attractive to go down there, nice weather and so forth. How do you get people not only to stop leaving Michigan, grow our population, and what would be your plan? And is there a model out there that you see that's doing this successfully?
So again, and I know it sounds like a broken record, folks, but eliminating the property taxes would be the new model for the United States of America. We have to share that plan and that vision with every other state. That makes us a pioneer, doesn't it? Also, with the elimination of the state income tax. This is our third debate, and I've had to call liar on all three of them because the gentleman at the end is not the only one or the first one that has talked about getting rid of the state income tax. I joined this race in January. He joined in April. Which comes first? I've been talking about this for 11 months now. So just to be clear, this is part of our model as well, getting rid of the state income tax. But I don't want to take credit when somebody else wants to have it. We've got to fix the education in this state. I propose we consolidate the 539 school districts in the state of Michigan and consolidate them down to 83 county school districts, getting rid of the bureaucracy and the overpaid administrators, and take their salaries and put that right back into that school district. That way we don't have to raise any more taxes. We're using money we already have collected. We have to bring the trades back to education. We have to be the first to say, we'll make it illegal for any transgender person to obtain a teacher's license in the state of Michigan. You want to cut the snake's head off? You tell our students that their teachers will not indoctrinate them about transitioning from the classroom. It shall be a felony, not just go to jail, a felony if you are caught transitioning a child without anyone's consent. We have to protect their innocence and move this state forward, and the only way we're going to do it is to roll up our sleeves and get to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, Mr. Cox, you want to respond in 30 seconds since you were mentioned?
Yeah, sure.
Hudson.
Is that work here? Yeah.
Well, let me say this. If you went to my website on April 15th, you'd find 50 pages of information and ideas. Tom's got a great website, but not quite Mike Cox's yet. Maybe we'll get there. But I've been in the race since the Kalamazoo Christmas party talking about these ideas. But here's the most important thing. I'm not the most original guy. I'll admit that. I will steal ideas from other states that work. And the reality is other states have the income tax elimination, and that's where I got the idea. I don't claim I'm the first or the most original. I was the first in this campaign talking about it. But I'm certainly not the most original because I want to be like the 9 other states that eliminated the income tax, have right to work, and they're educating their kids and they're bringing kids back to live there. So I'm not the most original, but I'm the most tenacious. That's what Marines do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Benjamin, question again. Michigan population, it's not growing. People are leaving Michigan. People are telling me that all the time on social media. How do you grow? How do you bring people back? What model do you have for that?
Thank you. 5 years ago, God gave me a vision and sent me on a mission to eliminate property tax in the state of Michigan. This is for homeowners, farmers, and businesses. It would wipe out all property taxes in the state of Michigan. Why? Why? After a lot of research, what I realized was we're losing businesses. How do we bring businesses back? Instead of giving them billions of tax dollars, we just tell them there's no property tax. Because most of you know, half of the corporations in Michigan do not pay property tax right now. Let's level the playing field. Okay? Homeowners, we need to make homes affordable, not only for young people, but for our senior citizens. We need to do that. We can do that with property tax elimination. Our farmers, whose homes and their farms, is it a home or is it a business or is it both? We need to eliminate property taxes so we can keep them farming. We need food more than we need solar and wind. God will provide that. He always has. Property tax elimination will bring businesses here, which will bring jobs here, which will bring people here, which will increase revenue for the state of Michigan. So instead of taxing the crap out of us and stealing our homes, our farms, and our businesses, we will have other revenue streams to run Michigan off from. This is what needs to happen first and foremost, because as we lose homes, farms, and businesses, we lose people, we lose revenue, our state is dying. And this needs to happen fast. And I think the 5 years ago that God put me on this mission called Axe My Tax, we need to get this done. It will force the government at every level, township, county, and state, to reprioritize their spending and get us back to the essential services of protecting our lives, our liberties, and our property. Thank you.
All right. We're going to move into a round where we will give you individual questions. So we will start with Mr. Cox. When you were Attorney General during some of those years when Michigan was using large incentive deals, mostly done by the Michigan Economic Development Corporations, mostly undelivering. There's a big controversy now with Scandal Flag Agency. Those are some years where we hiked the business taxes in the state, but delivered a lot of big corporate incentive-laden deals. As governor, do you keep the MEDC? Do you reform it? Do you shut it down? What's your plan?
We trash the MEDC. It's that simple. The MEDC is all about trying to buy some jobs and give money to corporate-connected folks who know the governor. That's what it's all about. I run a business. You know, the state did not give me any money to start my business. The state didn't buy me any land to start my business. I used my own money, mortgaged my house, signed a ton of guarantees, and I would have mortgaged my whole kid's future to start my business. That's how most business operates in Michigan and America. That's the American way. And what I would do, instead of trying to go out and hunt for jobs from the big three or the most politically connected, I would lower the burden of taxation on every single business. So when I talk about eliminating the income tax, for those of you who are small business owners, you know this, you're an S Corp. So your business tax is your income tax. And if you eliminate the income tax, what's going to happen? Small business, the biggest driver of growth, job growth in America, is going to do what? Hire more people, invest in more technology, become more competitive. That's how Michigan builds, by creating a garden, a fertile garden with low taxes, low regulation, and the ability for anyone to make it. You know, I'm not the smartest guy, I'm not the most original guy. I can tell you this as governor, I can never tell you which company is going to win and which one's going to lose. You know, Elon Musk can't do that. The richest man in the world can't do that. So how could the governor of Michigan ever pick winners and losers? No, what I will do is I will reduce the burden, like I did in the AG's office, reducing the size of the office, and I'll allow smart businessmen and women to identify themselves. And they will make their own way. And that's how Michigan will move forward again, and that's how we'll grow prosperous again, and that's how we'll be great again. Thank you very, very much for the question.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate you on that issue. I do think the governor of Michigan has been very good about picking losers, however, so I do have to take a look at that exception.
There we go. Mr. Leonard, talking about unemployment fraud, agency accountability, you've been both a prosecutor and a speaker. Michigan's unemployment system has hit innocent claimants with penalties. I interviewed someone several weeks ago who never even applied for unemployment during COVID. Now the state wants $20,000 back from her. There are fraudsters, obviously, in the system. It seems like a mess with the error rate, the appeals. What would you do? What would you write into or approve with law, or how would you judge your success? Because right now, it doesn't look good.
No, absolutely not. And our plan actually addresses this. Weeks before we released that plan, we were also released an accountability and ethics plan as well. Because 2/3 of the people in this state have lost faith in their state government. And one of the things that our plan calls for is actually increasing the office of Auditor General. What is the Auditor General? The Auditor General is the nonpartisan department. That's the watchdog, those are the eyes and ears and investigator on the ground every single day holding departments accountable. This current governor wanted to slash them because it was this Auditor General that found that nursing home deaths were misrepresented or misreported by 40%. That there was about $4 billion in fraud, waste, and abuse and unemployment claims that were fraudulently handed out that the Auditor General found. Going back to my old football days, I can tell you this. Anybody that played sports in high school or college, you'll know this. When you were playing an inferior team on a weekend, you didn't bring your A game to practice that week. But when you were in the playoffs, you were crisp, you were sharp, you showed up early, you practiced hard, you hit the weight room late because you knew you were going to be held accountable on the weekend. Imagine how much more accountable our state government would be if there were more investigators on the ground every single day to hold those departments accountable. Our plan calls for it. Second, if you really want to get to fraud, waste, and abuse in this state, we often hear about doging state government. I say let's go a step further. Let's go to zero-based budgeting. Let's zero out the entire budget and force the executive to stand before the legislature and justify why every single line item needs to be in that budget. That's how you get to the fraud, waste, and abuse, and it's in our plan.
Mr. Rebrand, you have built your campaign around family values, parental rights. Let's talk education. Would you support a universal school choice model where the funding follows the student to the schools of their choice? How would that affect our local school districts here in Michigan?
I would certainly support that because I am convinced that parents, according to Michigan compiled law 38010, states that parents direct the education of their children. I don't think they should be forced to go into a state-run school. They should have the opportunity to take their children into a private school, a parochial school, charter school, wherever they want, homeschool, whatever they want to do, they should have that right. So as governor, what I would be doing is making sure that the money follows the child, but not that the government follows the money. That's the biggest concern that everybody has, and we do not want that, and I would not sign any bill where the government can follow the money. The other thing with reference to education, we have to really take a good look at the Board of Education right now. They have totally conflated everything that's going on. As you probably are aware in this room, because you're aware of the things that are happening, the Board of Education voted against an overwhelming response against putting sex ed into health ed. They did that because they want to run their gender ideology through the system, starting with kindergarten to third grade and so forth, to teach kids to think about transgendering, as was mentioned earlier, to think about everything else is just ungodly and unrighteous. And so the point is that the Board of Education has overstepped where they are. I've gone to the meetings, I've spoken at the meetings, I had a pastor's group sign a resolution telling them, the Board of Education, that they had overstepped not only Michigan compiled law, but our Constitution, Michigan Constitution, that says religion, morality, and education. This is Chapter 8, or Article 8, Section 1. Religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary for good government, schools and the means of education shall forever be established. Our culture right now wants to take out those first two, religion and morality, and just believe that education will be good. It doesn't happen that way. Our founders understood that our Constitution, our U.S. Constitution, was for a religious and moral people. It's wholly inadequate for any other. That's John Adams, our second president.
Thank you very much. And you entered the room for the earmark fights in Lansing, many of them, as governor. What exact disclosures or timeline would you demand before you sign any budget with earmarks? And if the legislature sends you a bill with less transparency than that, would you veto it?
Yeah, you look at the last 7 years with Governor Whitmer. The budget has went up 45%. Who here has gotten a 45% pay increase? Anybody? This is the challenge that you have in Lansing with Governor Whitmer and the Democrats, this insidious hunger to take more and more of your money and spend it on their special projects, whether it's $5 billion on corporate welfare. $5 billion on corporate welfare that could have fixed every local critical condition bridge in the state of Michigan 3 times over. It's about priorities. First step was what the State House Republicans just did with Speaker Hall, and say that there needs to be disclosure of any of these specific earmarks. I think there needs to be better transparency even than that. But the Senate Democrats and Governor Whitmer fought like hell not to have to do that. They wanted to stuff it full of their pork, send it down to Detroit, do their payoffs, all taking your money away. What happened to the $9 billion surplus? Poof, vanished. Can you imagine next year if Jocelyn Benson and the Democrats win? I mean, Jocelyn Benson's more liberal than Whitmer, and she's less competent. This is what's at stake next year, is that we have to take it to the Democrats to make sure that we win back our state, to lower the cost of government so that families can keep more of what they earn, job providers can invest here in the state, and our kids can once again stay here in Michigan. That's how you make sure you make it in America. President Trump's "we're going to make it in the USA." We got to get back to saying we're going to make it here in Michigan.
Mr. Hudson, you're running as a political outsider. Tired of the way business has been done. I heard Mrs. Wagner talk about limiting property taxes. I've heard other candidates talk about eliminating income taxes. You want to eliminate both of them, but you got to convince the lawmakers to go along with this if you're governor. So what programs that government does now would you keep, and what are you going to totally eliminate in order to make up for the billions and billions of lost revenue from no property taxes and no income tax?
Well, it's not as difficult as you think when Eric's talking about the budget's gone up 45%. If we get rid of the wasteful pet projects and take that money and allocate it towards the essential needs that we have to provide for the people instead of the governmental wants, we can reallocate that funding. But if I need to break it down, the NRC, Eagle, MDOT need to be canceled. They need to be eliminated. We are wasting way too much money on programs that do not represent the people of the state of Michigan. When was the last time you ever saw MDOT actually standing by their candy corn cones on the side of the highway? They've been trying to work on our roads for 7 years and they never got it done. Now Whitmer says, hey, I'm going to charge you per mile. I'm going to raise your gas tax. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You had $9 billion in 7 years to do your job. You did not fix the damn roads. So the way I look at it is if you take the $8.1 billion set aside just to have MDOT and you divide that by 83 counties, I'm giving every county road commission $97 million to go to work. The $5 billion that we have set aside for MDOT to actually do the job, the $4.5 billion in wasteful corporate welfare, and the $3.1 billion we spent on illegal aliens in this state last year, that accounts for another $11.5 billion that we can spend on our roads and get the job done. They said that we had $5 billion worth of ghost jobs. Why did our budget only have $2 billion more for the roads? Where's the other $3 billion? That's the question for the politicians sitting at this table. Why are we not putting extra money to the roads to actually get it done? Where are we hiding it now?
Thank you very much. Ms. Wagner, you've been all about abolishing property tax and funding local services. You made eliminating that the centerpiece of your campaign, arguing that people never truly own their homes while that tax exists. Property tax currently funds most local police, fire, and city services, a big share of schools. If you succeed, what specific revenue source or spending cuts replace those dollars? Because that's the question I hear often when I talk your plan, and I think I've asked you this before. How do you answer that question?
I think the easiest way is, number one, we have to remember the right to own property That is a right that should not be taken away by any government service, especially when you're not using that service. So look at your millages, look at your bond proposals, look at your property tax bill, and figure out how many of those services you actually use. In a nutshell, the easiest way to explain this is 25% of what's on your property tax is waste. 25% should be paid by consumption, meaning the people that use the service. If you go to the zoo, pay admission. If you go to the museum, pay admission. If you go to the library, buy a library card. 25% will be saved by not collecting property tax. We don't need assessing departments anymore. We don't need township clerks or treasurers to maybe work 5 days a week because they won't be dealing with all of those property tax bills that they send out. There will be savings at the state level when we don't have someone scouring our income taxes to see if we've deducted our property taxes properly. Then we will recognize the economic boom from eliminating property tax. It will be amazing when we have businesses, jobs, people, and revenue coming back to the state of Michigan. Your school millages, your local school millages do not educate your kids. The education of your kids is paid by all of the other taxes that you pay. Income tax, sales tax, the lottery, real estate transfer tax. That's what educates your kids. We need to get back to the nitty-gritty. But most importantly, we have to save our property. Once that is gone, we will lose all of our liberties, all of our freedoms. They will be gone, and we will never get them back. So please, property tax elimination, thank you.
All right, same question for everyone to answer going down the line here. On what policy issue or issues do you disagree with President Trump?
Thanks for the question, Jarrett. I want to revisit property taxes for a second. And I applaud Carla for making that an issue. It's very, very important. An Ask My Tax is very well intended. And we need to reduce the burden on everyone here in Michigan property taxes. We all pay way too much. But the part of the problem is property taxes are in our Constitution, so we have to change the Constitution. And we know that the Democrats control the Supreme Court 6-1. I don't know if Carla, how the petition's going or not. But I want to suggest something we could be doing right now. Right now, the governor and the legislature, the past governor and past legislatures, could do 3 very important things to protect you in your home. In fact, I propose this. I call it the Cox Homeowners Protection Act. Something we wouldn't need to change the Constitution to help you right now. Number 1, move all millage ballot proposals to November. So we don't get any secret elections. You probably have been victim of that. Number 2, for seniors on a fixed income, we could eliminate the state mills, so the state wouldn't be taxing your property. Number 3, for homeowners and small farmers, not corporate farms, not big developers, we could eliminate the state mills. That could be happening right now to provide you protection right now, but the governor, the past governor, and the current legislature and prior legislators just haven't done that.
All right, Counselor, I got to overrule you on real quick.
Sure.
On the question.
On the question, on SALT, which is deducting state taxes from your federal taxes, I disagree with the president. It rewards high tax states like Illinois and New York and New Jersey. So that's my answer.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jared.
Do I get a rebuttal to that?
Mr. Leonard, same question. Is there a policy issue
Can I?
that you...
Excuse me.
Sorry. Yep, 30-second rebuttal from Ms. Wagner.
I'll be real quick.
Okay, and thank you, Mike. But property tax versus income tax. Okay, senior citizens pay very little in income tax, but property taxes are going to still take their home. Right? This is why property tax elimination is so much more important than income tax. I know there's states that have eliminated income tax, but some of those states are now looking at eliminating property tax. Why? Because elimination of income tax did not help their state. And they are still losing people. They are still losing people to property tax. That's why property taxes have to go first. And then if anyone can eliminate income tax after that, hallelujah, let's do it.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll go back to Mr. Leonard. Mr. Cox, thank you. I know that's a challenging question to get right off the bat. Everyone else has a little more time to think about it. Mr. Leonard, policy issue you disagree with President Trump?
Yes, I think this is the only thing that we've talked about or you've asked that's not in that policy manual. Okay? But I'm going to be very quick when I say this. I would not have let Kwame out of jail.
Mr. Reber.
This is what I voted for. I voted for President Trump to take control of the border, to take control of everything that's going on right now because we need our constitutional rights protected. The thing that I would have done differently, I'm a big believer in local people making decisions that affect their own lives. So like Greg Alexander has House Bill 4027 and 4028, which would take Lansing from overreaching into your neighborhood saying you have to put a windmill in your backyard or on your farm. I would totally support what Greg has suggested. My point in sharing that with you is when President Trump decided on his tariffs, what it did is it affected industry here in Michigan. And so I would want to talk with the people, you know, the big three industries who are here in Michigan. I would want to know how those things would affect them before I make a decision on it, rather than just make a blanket decision that is a interesting crap shot. So the bottom line is I voted for this, so I'm really happy with what's going on.
I saw the signs coming in, Trump was right about everything. And you see that with my signs, see that with the buttons. And maybe earlier this year, in the first 100 days, I thought he was a little too nice to Whitmer. But working together, I was at the 100-day rally, welcomed President Trump to northern Macomb County. And we announced a new fighter mission for Michigan, because I know President Trump loves Michigan. And he also cares about the natural resources we have, a fifth of the fresh water in the world. And yet a Democrat governor down in Illinois that's been blocking that new barrier for Asian carp. And working together, able to force that on to actually build that barrier. And so I think we need to finish off what we've seen with this Biden, Harris, Whitmer administration. I'm going to proudly stand with President Trump, Vance, Nesbitt administration. We need to turn that page.
All right, you know, it's not Jesus Christ, it's President Trump. Let's find something that we disagree with on. How about you, Mr. Hudson?
So I like to talk about accountability and transparency, and you know, Trump has delivered on a lot that he campaigned on, but one of the biggest things he kept saying is, I'll win the war in Ukraine and Russia in 24 hours, I'll get it done. Why isn't it done? Why have we not ended that war? We could go in and end we could have the peace talks with Israel and Gaza, but for some reason we can't get Putin and what's his butt to come to an agreement on ending that war. And that's something he spoke of quite often was, I can do it in a day. Give me 24 hours. I can end that war. He couldn't. And I'd like to know why and what's holding up that process.
Thank you. Ms. Wagner.
Yes, I know this is not going to be very popular, but this is one of the things that President Trump has done that I do not disagree with. I mean, I do disagree with, and I own a restaurant. I did not like it when he said no tax on tips. And I will tell you why. Because that is another way that the government is picking winners and losers. I will give you an example real quick. I have a daughter that works as a waitress. She makes $5.65 an hour. That's what she's paid. She can earn another $25 an hour in tips. She only has to pay tax on the $5.65. I have a son who's a carpenter. He makes $30 an hour. He has to pay income tax on that whole $30. Why? That makes no sense to me at all. I'm not sure why they chose to do that, but I will tell you what I'm going to do, and they can lock me up if they catch me. I'm going to give my son $5.65 an hour, and I'm going to tip him the other $25. So he nor I have to pay tax on that difference. Because that just does not make sense to me that they did that, because everyone's going to want to be a tipped employer now, right? A tipped employee. That just did not make sense to me, and I'm still trying to figure out why it was done. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Okay, this round we're going back to individualized questions for each candidate. Mr. Cox, you've investigated public corruption before, and right now Michigan is seeing earmark scandals left and right, it seems like, and criminal charges tied to politically connected nonprofits. As governor, what hard rules would you demand in law before you sign any budget with earmarks, and would you veto a budget that does not meet that standard?
Yes. Let me remind folks, Michigan, unlike the president, the governor of Michigan has a line item veto. So you can line out anything you want as governor that passes the House and Senate. So simply, they give me a budget. As your governor, I will line out any port. That's simple. And you're right, as Attorney General, I conducted at least 72 public corruption investigations and trials. And long before election integrity became an issue, I prosecuted the clerks of Ecorse, Southfield, River Rouge for, believe it or not, ballot harvesting. So it's nothing new. I've seen it for a long time. As governor, I wouldn't be prosecuting those cases, but we wouldn't have Faye Baydoun starting a company after she got $20 million from the MEDC a couple days after in order to receive the money. I'd line that crap out right away. It's that simple. Thank you, David.
All right, Mr. Leonard. So our state Board of Education recently took a vote that tries to expand some of these DEI, transgender, LGBTQ issues across all curriculum areas in our public schools. So if you're governor, how do you control the state Board of Education? How do you ensure that what kids learn on issues like gender identity, sexuality, activism, how do you ensure that that goes back to parents versus what the public school districts or our state Board of Education are going to be doing?
Yeah, so I think it's a two-part question. Let me answer the second one first. I mean, the bottom line is, on the second one, we just got to have the legislators with the intestinal fortitude to pass the right laws. Like I said earlier, there is not one state in the entire country that makes it a criminal offense if a school official is transitioning somebody's minor child without their consent. Michigan needs to be the first, and again, it is in our policy platform. But number two, with the State Board of Ed, let me be frank here and let me give you some straight talk. Constitutionally, right now, the only thing we can do is either go to the ballot and eliminate them, or number two, we've got to go out and we've got to start winning elections. We cannot have this where we win 2 board seats every 10 years and the Democrats win 8 of them. We need a governor that is going to wake up every single day and not just be focused on the policy, but be focused on rebuilding the State Board of Ed. But guess what else? Our courts. Myself and John Roth, we could pass all the best legislation in the world. But right now, we've got a 6-1 Supreme Court. And it's not 6-1 in the good guy's favor. We better have a governor or gubernatorial candidate. We better have a governor that wakes up every single day saying, not only are we going to rebuild the State Board of Ed so this never happens again, but we've got to start rebuilding these courts so that when we get the right legislation passed, it's upheld with rule of law justices and judges.
Thank you very much. Mr. Rebank, as a pastor, you preach compassion, obviously. As a candidate, you've emphasized law and order. When it comes to pardons for non-citizens facing deportation, where do you draw the line on that? Because the Catholic Church, the Pope, they're all weighing in on this issue. How would you handle this?
Well, it's very simple. If you come into the country the right way, you deserve due process. If you don't deserve due process going out. That's where I am. Of course, I'm compassionate. I would be willing to hear somebody's case. They could talk to me about what's happened in their country. But this mass invasion of our country and even in our state has caused heartbreak in our own state. I have a pastor friend who was up here in Traverse City 2 Labor Days ago. His daughter left the house. She's heading home. An illegal alien crosses the double yellow line, hits her head on, and she dies. The guy can't speak English. He doesn't know driver's ed, never took driver's ed, but he's driving on our roads. I could talk about what's happening in Grand Rapids with the illegals raping, murdering, and killing people. My point is, as governor, it's my responsibility to protect the citizens and make sure, regardless of how they feel about it, that if you don't come in with due process, you don't deserve due process going on.
Mr. Nesbitt, you have been very vocal on energy policy issues. Michigan has the highest energy costs in the Midwest. We have the worst reliability in the Midwest. What would you do on energy policy, specifically regarding choice and regarding the renewable portfolio standard? What would you do as governor?
Energy is expensive enough. Just as President Trump is making us energy dominant in the world, we in Michigan need to be energy abundant. And unfortunately, what we've gotten out of Governor Whitmer and the Democrats in Lansing is this pie-in-the-sky idea that you can ban fossil fuels and still have an economy. You can't run the economy on pixie dust and rainbows. You need to have a policy that's built on natural gas, on nuclear, on making sure that Line 5 pipeline, that 70% of propane users, I'm one of them, and I bet you I see quite a few propane users here in this room, that if that shuts down, that supply ends. And this is what we've had: a governor, a secretary of state, an attorney general who have been trying to shut that down. What have we been wanting to do? Fortunately, President Trump's expediting this. That last permit, $1 billion investment in our infrastructure, energy infrastructure, and safety to the environment to make sure that if there is ever a leak, that it's in bedrock and it doesn't get into our Great Lakes. You also need to make sure that what was passed, this monstrosity 3 years ago that was passed, one Democrat could have blocked this vote that's going to increase energy rates by $2,500, that's going to ban fossil fuels in the state of Michigan, that's going to even decrease reliability more. We're 49th in the nation in reliability. We got to repeal that. And what it's doing is tearing up our farm and forest land. 300,000 acres of our farm and forest land is going to have to be torn up for these solar panels made in China. It's making these San Francisco millionaires into billionaires. That needs to end, and we'll do that. As your next governor, I'll make sure that it's easier for families to make it in Michigan by lowering the cost of energy, job creators to make it here in Michigan, and to protect our rural way of life, to making sure that it's not ripping up our farm and forest land. Period, paragraph. We'll get it done.
Mr. Anthony Hudson, you've been talking on Facebook, social media, a lot about libertarian issues and, correct me if I'm wrong, donating to the Libertarian Party, discussing a party switch. Are you now a Libertarian? Are you a Republican? What's going on with that?
No, I am a Republican. Sometimes you have to think what's best for the people in the state of Michigan. And I looked over my platform for quite some time, and it lines up a lot with libertarian principles. This whole issue with the marijuana tax in the state of Michigan, that's something that most of my opponents were, against the marijuana industry down in Roseville. I actually stood up and see the positives of having this industry in the state of Michigan. It's a $3 billion a year industry. Why are we trying to tax it out of the state? That's a libertarian, belief. They support that. I wish I'd have had the energy question, to be honest with you, because I'm waiting to answer that one. But no.
15 more seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's not enough. I need the full minute. But no, I am still a registered Republican. I am running on the Republican ticket. I am staying in the Republican Party because if I want to win this thing, I have to take it straight to the party and say this is why I am the best candidate to win this seat for the party. I feel like I am the strongest candidate that will take all of those Democrats and put them right in their place without hesitation, because I have nothing to lose. I'm not worried about losing to the Democrats because they're all weak candidates this time around. So we're going to do it. We're going to do it through the Republican Party.
Ms. Wagner, you got into this starting with a ballot proposal that would change the Constitution regarding property taxes. That transitioned into a campaign for governor. The signature gathering on that's not going that great. Why not focus on the property tax issue, which is the centerpiece of your campaign, rather than transitioning to a run for governor?
Who said it wasn't going so great?
Just projecting the number of signatures versus what you're going to need to actually get that on the constitutional ballot.
We're actually, I'm not going to say, but we're actually not doing bad at all. And we've actually had a lot of resurgence. We've had a lot more radio ads and everything, and we're reaching a lot more people across the state of Michigan. This is about the initiative, but it's also about the education. What we did do with Axe My Tax so far is we're starting to teach people how to vote no on millages and bond proposals. We are turning them down. People are waking up to property tax elimination. So we have quite a while we can still go. We need 180-day window to collect 600,000 signatures. I think we're going to make it. People will say maybe we won't, but I'm thinking that the people are done with property taxes. They're working very hard. They're all volunteers. None of us are being paid to do this. It is a constitutional amendment, so it will change the Constitution. And the most important thing to remember, police and fire, we are funding them. We are funding them, and we are protecting the funding for police, fire, emergency services, and a place to vote. So I think we're going to be successful. What prompted me to run for governor was when I saw what was happening in Lansing, and I thought, these people don't want to help us. We're on our own. We are on our own. Thank you.
All right, back to a question for all of you to answer. Going down the line, back to you, Mr. Cox, to start. How do we balance this local control and growth in our state? Around Michigan, we've increasingly seen these issues at the local level preventing a lot of things from being built. So not, from wind and solar panels, as mentioned, but also manufacturing facilities, data centers, but even new apartments and housing developments that used to take a year to get approval are now taking a decade. So things that would take a month are taking years. How do we balance local control with the need for Michigan to build, to grow, and compete with these high-growth states?
Right. Well, thank you. Since 1837, when we became a state, we started off with a township local controlled form of government. And the Constitution has always respected that. So I'm a big believer in local control, especially as it relates to zoning and other things like that. Eric brought up the fact that Governor Whitman, in order to forward her Green New scam, took away the ability of local communities to zone in terms of solar and wind. And those are things that are in a geographical area. Historically, this is a big oil and gas area up here in northern Michigan, part of the Antrim Shale Formation. It's brought a lot of wealth to northern Michigan. That's regulated by Eagle because it flows without regard. Oil and water flow where they flow without regard to township or village or other borders. So there are certain activities that are inherently statewide and certain that are inherently local control. But here are some things that are very important to me statewide. Things such as CPLs, right? And tax structure. I'm a person, I live in Wayne County, the People's Republic of Wayne County. The city of Detroit is able to impose an income tax. I'm all against that. As your governor, I would take away the ability of local communities to impose that income tax, but I wouldn't take away their ability to zone for things above the ground in their own area. So I don't know if that directly answers your question, Jared, because it's really one by one. For instance, data centers. The president's put a high priority in beating China and AI. I'm a big believer in that. But I also believe that local communities ought to be able to control the location of data centers within their community. I think that's very, very important and something we ought to respect. Because I know at the same time, your township may not want it, my township or city may not want it, but others will, and we'll be able to move forward and still respect local control. Thank you very much for the question, Jared.
I think first you look to the Constitution, and then you look to just a little common sense. So let's talk about the Constitution first. I will tell you this, there should never be local control with CPLs. We need to make Michigan a constitutional carry state. You should never have to go to your local government and pay them a fee to exercise your Second Amendment rights. And in fact, I remember when I was House Speaker, to this date, there's only been one legislative leader in the history of the state when I was Speaker in 2018, and thank God that Dara Rendon back there stood with us. We passed constitutional carry out of the House of Representatives. That's something we have to get done. No local should be able to dictate whether or not you can keep and bear arms and protect yourself and protect your family. Number two, when it comes to common sense, we've got an affordable housing crisis in this state. Our young kids cannot afford homes. I'm talking to seniors that cannot sell their homes and even downsize right now because they're not going to be able to afford the one that they're going to move into. We've got to solve this issue. So yes, that might require telling the locals, you know what? We're going to come in and we're going to make you justify some of these regulations and we're going to get rid of them. I talked to a developer from Southeast Michigan. He wanted to build 300 homes in Washtenaw County. He was going to be able to sell them for $300,000. By the time he jumped through all the hoops, it was going to cost him $550,000 to build them. Scrap the entire project. If we want to keep our kids here, we've got to have affordable housing. But going back to common sense, our state never should have been taking over local control and telling farmers we're going to take over your fields and we're going to put up thousands of acres of solar panels across this state. We need affordable housing. Frankly, there are better, more efficient, and more effective ways to heat your homes and generate energy. We don't need thousands of acres of solar farms across the state. Again, look to the Constitution, exercise some common sense.
All right. I believe your question was about businesses, so let me try to address it from that area. I've already mentioned that I'm in favor of Greg Alexander's House Bill 4027, 4028, which gives local control. The problem that I see in the state is that Lansing has become too big. They've tried to pass things. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, Governor Whitmer has her favorite Michigan Public Service Commission, a 3-member panel that she appoints that is now overseeing Eagle, DNR, and Leo. That's just outrageous because it ends up being, Lansing as a central authority telling local authorities what they can do. And so, as already been mentioned, I'm all about local authority. How can we get communities to work together? In the 1970s, there was an act called the Urban Cooperation Act. What it did is it encouraged cities and townships, municipalities across the state to work together. Now, if there's an emergency, there's a fire, they already do that. All of them send their fire trucks to them, to that particular issue. So to address part of what Carla was saying, does every neighborhood need a splash park? Does every neighborhood need all of these extra things? If we work together as communities, we won't be charging each other the high millages, the high taxes. And so when I choose a place to live, I choose it because I want to live in that area. And I don't want Lansing telling me what to do. I don't want people down the road telling me what to do. But I do want to keep my area the way it is when I bought it. And so as I would be your governor, what I would be looking for is to make sure that Lansing doesn't have the overstep and making sure that where you live, you folks have all of the answers, because I think it is important. And I do agree with Tom on the constitutional thing, but I just wanted to answer it from more of a business perspective.
Senator Nesbitt. Senator Nesbitt, to repeat, so balancing local control with the need for Michigan to build, grow, and compete.
Well, first thing, Lansing needs to get their house in order. Because under Governor Whitmer and the Democrats in Lansing, they have went ahead and built up a bureaucratic red tape that's insane for anybody who wants to invest and grow in the state of Michigan. I was in Adrian a few months ago, and I was talking to a restaurant owner. We're having a late lunch, and she goes, "This is the last day that I'm going to be open." I survived COVID. I survived the lockdowns, even the second round. But this time after time of regulatory burden coming from the state on new labor laws, on new mandates, on new regulations, she's like, "I'm done. I can't do it anymore." Lansing needs to get their house in order first. Period, paragraph. And you hear it time after time in the regulated departments. There's over 16,000 rules and regulations. And if you think you're going to reform these, we can with a new governor. A governor that goes line by line, says, is that permit needed? If it's needed, give it a specific time frame. If it's not needed, scrap it. Send it to the ash heap. Got to take a blowtorch to these departments and burn down these permits and these regulations controlling individuals here in the state from even investing and growing. There's a boat manufacturer in Holland. They're trying to replace their docks. They're 4.5 years in, $1.5 million of engineering and legal costs, and they still can't get a permit from the state of Michigan to rebuild their freaking dock. 700 employees, 4th generation family business. That's wrong. It needs to end. It needs to get back to customer service. We need to make sure every employee, state employee, is back to the office. I figure only 1 out of 5 state workers are even showing up to the office right now. That's going to end on day one, just like President Trump did.
I actually agree with all of them. In their own way, I agree with all of them. And as the next governor, I'm sure I can find a position for all of them to help make this happen. But part of the problem is the corruption at the local level. Look at Mundy Township if you don't know. The town of Mundy does not want a semiconductor plant to be built on their agricultural land. The board's not listening to them. When you vote, they need to listen, because your vote is the most powerful thing you've got, right? That's your voice. Lansing needs to stay the hell out of our communities. They don't know who we are individually. They don't know what makes this county work and what makes that county work. They just want to impose their will and make us comply. That's why when I ride my motorcycle through the thumb, I see wind turbines everywhere. Ruins the whole advantage of riding a motorcycle and being free. Did the people in those communities want those turbines? No, they did not. Are we getting the energy from those turbines? No, we're not. The corruption starts at the local level and ends in Lansing. If we want local control, we need to hold the local counties accountable and make sure that they're doing their job to represent the people and pass what the people want. Because the government, like they said earlier, starts with we the people. It's supposed to be by, for, and from the people, but it's none of those things if we vote to eliminate something and they don't listen to us. So let's get the government out of your house, your schools, and your jobs, and let's bring back your individual liberty and let you have a voice in your community and put Lansing back in its place.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, how does Michigan balance local control if locals are blocking a lot of these developments that also are things like manufacturing and housing that we actually need in order to grow and compete?
Okay, so I think we have a lot of issues at our township and our county level, more our township. And I don't think it helps when we have the state trying to oversee some of that. The townships, unfortunately, don't always interpret the law as it should be. Or when you give some people a little bit of power, they take it too much or they take it too far. Myself, our business has been sued by my local township because we didn't want to share the parking lot, our parking lot, with the restaurant down the hill from us. without him paying us something for the use of our parking lot. Our township sued us over that and said we were creating a public safety nuisance. It wasn't us, because it wasn't our customers that were parking on a major highway. Our township sued us to benefit another restaurant that was over compliance. They were overloading, their maximum occupancy was 147, they were sticking 300 people in there. The fire marshal should have been down there, the liquor license people should have been down there, and the township should have been down there. But they didn't do it, and they sued us to share that parking lot. We now have a township where it's taken us 2.5 years to get an approval to develop a piece of property. 2.5 years. Don't we have a housing crisis? That's what they tell us, but obviously not. Not in my township anyway. We need to elect better officials. That's what it comes down to. It's our job to elect better people, not only at the township level, the county level, and the state level, and we need to figure out how they can all work together for the benefit of where you live. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our rapid round questions, I would like, no?
We can keep going.
We keep going?
There's still another round. Yeah. No.
Okay, well I have a question that I'd like all of you to answer, and you each have 2 minutes, and it's very interesting. As I say, I'm keeping it real here. I don't know if you may like this, but Jocelyn Benson, Mike Duggan, the mayor of Detroit, they're on TV all the time. People know who they are. Many of you are not a household name in the state of Michigan. And the Lansing insiders, the media, all of us, we know who you are. Mike Cox, let's start for the average person who may not know, and if it's you going up against Jocelyn Benson, she's going to have a lot of money coming in. Any of the candidates on that side are going to have a lot of money. What is your approach? How are you going to get that name recognition for people who may not know who you are?
Right. Well, thank you for that. I actually have pretty high name ID. And in fact, not only for my time as Attorney General, but I resolved, I had a $500 million settlement against elitist University of Michigan where corrupt administrators were covering up the rape of its athletes. So I've been in the paper and Metro TV, Detroit Metro TV quite a bit on a number of my cases, fighting government and fighting for those who are voiceless and vulnerable. So I'm not really worried about that. In fact, if you look at the published polls, usually they'll put myself or John James against Benson and Duggan. And generally, James and I and Benson are within the margin there at 35, give or take, and Duggan's at 17. But at the end of the day, of anyone running, if you want your vote to make a difference, if you want someone who just doesn't talk, but actually walks the walk, vote for someone who's actually won twice statewide when the rest of the ticket was losing. Vote for someone who actually took on big fights like illegal immigration before it was cool, like DEI before it was cool. In fact, I sued and beat Barack Obama in the United States Supreme Court in 2012 to allow local police officers to arrest illegal aliens. When the voters of Michigan are reminded of that, and I talk to them about our hardcore conservative ideas, my plans for making Michigan great again, including revolutionize our education system by taking it back to fundamentals, revolutionizing our economy by freeing the burden of income tax on businesses and good folks like you. We will create a campaign that will make Republicans win again, make Michigan safe again, make Republicans win again and again, and make Michigan great again. So, David, I'm all for taking on Mike Duggan and Jocelyn Benson, and I'm ready, willing, able, and I will beat the shit out of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. That was an individual. Sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna individual. If you
I
want to
thought we were
touch on
going
that
through
as
that.
well, and I can answer that. Let me see. Hold on. Make the list here.
Answer that.
I'd like to. Do it. Just start talking.
Okay. Mr. Leonard, you argue that families are overtaxed. At the same time, Lansing has funneled billions into mega projects, corporate incentive deals. As governor, where do you stand? Would you sign the interstate compact to end these subsidies, reform the MEDC, What's your plan?
So I want to go back for just a minute. Name ID is not going to be a problem for anybody up here once they become the nominee. This is going to be a $200 million race. The question is going to be who has the guts to go out there with a positive vision every single day and take it to the Democrats. I think you've seen me with my answers here tonight. I'm ready to do that, and I'm ready to do that with that plan that's there. And when I was House Speaker, I will tell you this, I was not afraid to tackle issues that affected urban areas. Who remembers the wretched driver responsibility fees that put people in a place, 350,000 of our residents where they couldn't get a driver's license, 75,000 of them in the city of Detroit. Guess who was the House Speaker that had to go to war with the Republican governor to eliminate those fees and give 350,000 people their driver's licenses back? Imagine sending a Republican on that debate stage in October who can stand there with Jocelyn Benson and stand there with Mike Duggan and say, guess what? When I gave 75,000 of your residents their driver's licenses back, you were nowhere to be found. That's what we need. We need somebody that's going to go out there with the right message, the right vision, and not be afraid to take it to them every single day. In terms of the getting rid of, or what was the question? I'm sorry, I get wound up anytime anybody says that because Jocelyn Benson or Mike Duggan have higher name ID than us, they're going to win. They're not if we take it to them.
On the corporate subsidy issue, where do you stand on getting rid of the MEDC, joining interstate compact and get rid of it, that kind of thing?
Again, another answer that's in our plan. It calls for getting rid of the MEDC, but you know what? It replaces it with the Michigan Business Action Center. What does that do? The Michigan Business Action Center would be a department that would no longer dole out subsidies. It would no longer pick winners and losers. What it would do is it would serve as a customer service center for all businesses across this state, small and large. So think about the young couple in Mississippi that want to move back to Michigan. They want to come to Traverse City and they want to start a small coffee shop. But they don't know where to start. They don't know who to call. They don't know who to get in contact with. They could call the Michigan Business Action Center and they could streamline this process and help them with the permitting and everything that they need done to start their business immediately. That's what we need to do. Again, it's in that plan. Take it home with you tonight and read it because there's not one answer that I've given tonight that's not in there.
Mr. Weaving, question for you. How about a tweak on that question? So, you're coming out of this outside the political process. How do you gain the name recognition? How do you raise enough money to compete and win with Democratic candidates that are going to bring in hundreds of millions of dollars from out of state?
I'm glad you asked me that because I was going to answer that regardless of what you asked. I'm not afraid of Jocelyn Benson or Duggan. They are both globalists. They're both in bed with the World Economic Forum. And once you read what the World Economic Forum is all about, I don't know that anybody in Michigan will vote for them once they find that out. Mike Duggan is a political transvestite. He thinks that he can change his clothes and be something else. He has voted Democratic his whole life, and I'm going to call him out on it. So I can't wait to be on a debate stage with him. As for name ID, I have to share a story with you all. As I mentioned earlier, I was at Mar-a-Lago on Thursday last week, and as we were walking in, there was a lady who was there talking to us, and she said, "So what's your name?" And I said, "My name's Ralph Reband." And she kind of looked puzzled, and she was looking at me, and she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm running for governor of Michigan." And she said, "That's right." She said, "I heard you're the only candidate that can beat John James." I was blown away. A woman in Florida who's watching, as Jim mentioned, they're watching our race. And they know who I am. So I have several lanes that I can win this thing, not only in the primary, but win it in the general. And I'm not afraid of anything, anyone, and what's going on. And so I'm just glad you asked that question because it's really exciting. I would love to tell you the lanes, but then you would know the secret sauce, so I can't do that.
All right. I'm already on. Quick follow, and this woman was not your wife, was it?
She was not my wife. Good question.
Same question. There's going to be a lot of money coming in from the Democratic side as well. You are currently in the state Senate, the Lansing Insiders, they know who you are. How do you break into that bubble? You're the candidates, you and Jocelyn Benson. How do you get your name in every household out there? How do you do that?
The last 7 years, Governor Whitmer and the Democrats in Lansing have continued to make it tougher and tougher for people to live here in Michigan. Our costs are going up. It's tougher for businesses to create jobs, and our kids are falling behind. Just because of the COVID lockdowns, 3/4 of our kids are 3/4 of our grade level behind. 3 out of 5 third graders are not able to read at grade level. And we know if you're not able to read at grade level by that time, you have a 2 out of 3 likelihood of doing 1 of 2 things in your life, being on social welfare or in jail. I want to paint a very different picture than what that lays out right now. We're 49th in unemployment, 49th in population growth, 37th in per capita income. We used to be a wealthy state. We're a welfare state. We got to be a wealthy state again. Jocelyn Benson's the worst Secretary of State ever. Period. And we're going to go ahead and contrast her with what she wants to do to this state, which is even going to be worse than what we've seen over the last 7 years with Governor Whitmer. We're at a crossroads, guys. Next year's a crossroads. We're either going to become a freer state, a more prosperous state, with more people and better education, or we're going to lose it for the next several decades. It's up to us. We show that last year we can win. President Trump won. We won back the state house. And next year we got to win it all, because it's about our next generation. It's about our children. And as we celebrate 250 years as a country, it's going to be up to us to make sure that we can join with President Trump as he comes back and says we're going to make it in the USA, that we're going to make it in Michigan once again, because we deserve that. That's how we're going to bring it to them, with 2 Democrats running next year.
Anthony Hudson, Genesee County. A lot of people there, they know you. Flint, they know you. Other parts of the state, they may not. It's you and Jocelyn Benson, Mike Duggan, someone else, Garland Gilchrist. How do you get your name out there? Hundreds of millions of dollars are going to be involved. How do you do that? And they're going to be digging into anything and everything from your social media or whatever. How do you get your name out there?
So last week, for 3 days, I was the #1 trending topic on X in the United States of America. #1 for 3 days. In the last 24 hours, 1.2 million hits on my Facebook political page. You guys are on your phones more than you're on your TVs. That's our world nowadays, social media. I am the most popular candidate in any race on any side in the state of Michigan when it comes to social media. 28 million views on Facebook alone in the last 60 days. I just grew 3,000 followers on X in 48 hours. I hear, walk the walk. No, you didn't. I just took on Dearborn and I asked every single one of you to walk with me in unity, and none of you showed up. Don't tell me that you will fight for the American people if you can't show up and walk in a unity walk for the citizens down in Dearborn. A governor has to represent all the people in the state of Michigan, not the ones that you pick and choose. You have to fight for all of us. We're all Americans. We all have the same rights under the Constitution as anyone else. I asked this entire party to come walk with me in Dearborn to show peace and unity. I had over 1,000 strangers from across the state. I had reporters from across the planet come here to interview me during that walk. One from Pakistan, one from France. Name recognition, Dave? I had worldwide recognition earlier this week, and people came from all over to talk to Anthony Hudson because they wanted to know what I was doing in Dearborn, and it's something that no other candidate sitting up here was brave enough to conquer.
Ms. Wagner, so how do you raise the money? How do you raise the name recognition to compete and win?
My invite must have gotten lost in the snail mail. And I think there's a very fine line between bravery and stupidity. And I think putting other people's lives in jeopardy to get votes as a uniformed volunteer deputy. I don't appreciate that. I'll go on. Now you asked me a question about name recognition. I think I do have some recognition for the last 5 years of working on Axe My Tax. I hope people understand that I am very sincere. I did not start out with Axe My Tax to run as governor. It would never cross my mind until I was afraid that we would fail, that I would fail the people of the state of Michigan, and I needed to do something to help Axe My Tax, because I believe that property ownership is what we have to hang on to more than anything, more than anything. Name-wide recognition, I hope Jocelyn Benson's going to be in jail. That's where she should be. Mayor Dugan, his own people in Detroit don't like him because between January and June of this year alone, he's foreclosed on over 3,900 homes. You think those people are going to vote for him? I don't think so, but thank you.
Mr. Hudson, please, 30 seconds to respond to the first part of that response.
Go ask Donald Trump if going to Dearborn was stupidity since they voted for him in the last presidential election. We need that vote. And if you ask me why I was there, it's because of the Constitution of the United States. The freedom of religion. No one in this room gets to determine what religion is right and what religion is wrong. That's their God-given right as American citizens, and we need to stop discriminating against that culture and telling them what they're doing is wrong. If you can show me evidence, show me evidence. I spent 4 days down there and did not hear one call to prayer pushed out over the city. And it was recorded every single time on social media. It didn't happen. So show me the proof, and then go back to Donald Trump and say it was stupid to go to Dearborn because Dearborn helped him win Michigan last November.
All right, let's be really good. Even though we're running for political office, we're going to do our rapid round. Let's keep it to less than 30 seconds. A sentence would be really great. I saw some people in the room say shortest answer on these ones is who they're going to vote for, so
That's right.
Deal with that. So rapid round, going down the line. Let's start easy. What's your go-to comfort food after a long campaign day?
Twix bars.
It's probably a protein bar, and I've always got a cup of coffee in my hand.
Whatever my wife orders on the menu.
I'm a dairy farm boy. It's ice cream at the end of the day.
I'm from Texas, so it's a nice freaking steak. Sorry.
McDonald's mocha for the trip home.
Okay. Starting again with Mr. Cox, if you could have dinner with any U.S. president, past or present, who would it be?
Let's tweak that. Not present. Got to be past. Let's do it that way.
George Washington, right, founded our nation. He really created the rule of law when he decided to move on. Folks wanted to stay and become an emperor. He really created separation of powers. He really created the rule of law. He respected the legislature and really created the system that we have today. So George Washington, that'd be pretty damn cool. And I know he liked to have a few beers and eat really good food, so that part would be pretty cool too.
I hate you asked it this way because at the last event they asked who our favorite president was, and I said Lincoln. But by gosh, having dinner with somebody, I definitely go with Trump. How fascinating, how funny would that dinner be? But since we can't pick him, I'd go back to Lincoln.
I'd have dinner with Lincoln because he was an average guy, homeschooled and understood our Constitution and fought for religious liberty and fought for civil rights.
Yeah, I'd probably either go with, if it's passed, by either Ronald Reagan, just on giving a new hope and sense to America that was lost after the years of malaise. And then Abraham Lincoln also, those are probably the two, just the way he was able to unify our country. So
JFK, because of his transparency. And then with me there, Maryland wouldn't have to eat alone.
Like everybody else, or pretty much everybody, Abraham Lincoln because he freed a nation. But Ronald Reagan, because I think he said we need peace through strength. And I think that we need that. We're at that time in the world right now where we need to develop peace through strength.
All right, that is our time. We are going to move to our closing statements, back to 2 minutes. We're going to start opposite end with Mrs. Wagner. We will have Chairman Brunstad is going to come up at the end to close us out. But we're going to go with our candidates, final 2 minutes here, starting with
1 minute.
I'm sorry, 1 minute. Cut you in half. Mrs. Wagner, 1 minute for you.
Okay, real short and sweet. God has blessed me with so many opportunities to create so many different businesses, and with those businesses come real life experiences. And now I feel that it is my time to share those businesses, experiences, and opportunities with you to lead Michigan back to the prosperous state that we were once before. And when the people in this state prosper, the state will prosper. We need to be a wealthy state and not a welfare state. We need a future for the future generations of Michigan. Thank you.
As I stated before, I have a bold vision for the state of Michigan. And since I didn't get to answer the energy, I'll do it real quick. I think we do need to deregulate the energy in the state of Michigan. We need to bring competition back to the state to help drive down the cost. Get rid of the wind and solar, go back to coal, use our natural gas, and reopen our nuclear energy plants. We have to bring the cost of energy down. We have to combat the high prices that we see throughout the state of Michigan. We have to lose the overreach of government in Lansing, and I believe cutting Lansing in half, shrinking these departments, getting rid of wasteful departments, making government smaller so that your voice is bigger is the way to go. I think your individual liberty is your absolute freedom. Live your life, enjoy your life, take the noose off your neck and be free. And just understand what the consequences are if you hurt someone, but be free. And right now, we don't have anyone that is pushing that agenda because status quo seems to be the norm around here, and I want out of that box for all of you.
Thanks for all coming. Thanks for spending some time with us. But I'm running for governor because we need to be able to make it in Michigan again. Our families, our job creators, and our kids need to be able to make it once again in Michigan. And unfortunately, under Governor Whitmer and the Democrats in Lansing, it's become harder for our families to make it in Michigan with the high cost of living. We need to lower the cost of housing, lower the cost of government, lower our taxes, lower the cost of insurance and energy. Our job creators, our businesses are trying to invest and grow here in Michigan. How do you make it easier for them to make it here in Michigan? Actually have a government that's responsive and is in customer service. Do away with these permits that aren't needed and free our people so they can invest and grow in our state again. And with our kids, we got to empower our parents. We got to give them choice. As your next governor, I'll sign on day one Trump's tax credits to provide school choice for every Michigan parent here in the state of Michigan. Making sure our kids can read and reinvesting in vocational education so every kid is able to get a trades or blue-collar job or able to go on to college when they're done with high school. That's why I'm running for governor, to make sure our next generation can make it here in Michigan.
When you have seen the compromise and the corruption that I have seen in Michigan politics, there's no going back. There's horrendous waste in the budget. There's constant compromise by politicians. There are blatant backroom deals that support corrupt politicians instead of we the people. I am running for governor, friends, because I have lived the American dream. I married my high school sweetheart, someone that I've known since 7th grade. I've lived the American dream. I have 4 kids, 20 grandkids. They all love Jesus. They're walking with the Lord, and I couldn't ask for anything else. I don't have a ton of money in the bank, but I will tell you this. I'm running because I want you and your children and grandchildren to experience the same American dream that I did. And I will guarantee you this, that if I'm blessed to be your governor, I will wake up every morning with this on my mind. How can I make your American dream come true?
My friends, 1 year ago, Democrats gave Michigan and gave Republicans a playbook for what happens when you wake up every single day, you're void of a vision, you don't know what you stand for, and your only focus is hatred of one person. You lose. And frankly, as Republicans, we are not immune to that. As much as we may want to talk about Gretchen Whitmer and Jocelyn Benson, if that's our only focus, next November, we lose. We better show up every single day with a positive vision, showing the state what we stand for. I call it the Dan Campbell approach. When that man became coach of the Lions, he didn't focus on 5 decades of failure. He didn't point the finger. He didn't cast blame. But with a lot of grit, a lot of determination, a positive vision, he turned that program around. If he could turn the Detroit Lions around, we can turn the state of Michigan around with that same vision. And I'm telling you, it's resonating. Just this morning, 60 college Republican leaders that chair most of the college Republican chapters across this state, they endorsed our candidacy. Former Colonel Christy Chu, who's back there, the last Republican state colonel that we had, has endorsed our candidacy. It is resonating, and we are going to win in November.
I'm running for governor to make Michigan the great state that my parents first saw. And so ultimately, you have to decide, do you want wolf cookies and pixie dust and fantasy, or do you want to win next year? Because if you want to win, you need the toughness of a Marine. If you want to win, you need the tenacity of a homicide prosecutor. If you want to win, you need someone who won the closest statewide race. The only Republican ever beat Gary Peters. It was tenacious and did big conservative things as your attorney general, then went out and started his own business from scratch with his own hands. Not someone who's going to sell you wolf tickets or cookies or whatever the metaphor. Not someone who's going to propose, and not dispose. You need someone who's going to win and deliver. Talk to former state rep Bruce Rendon over there, how I helped him win his race and beat a longtime Democrat. Ultimately, this is about making Michigan great again, making Republicans win again. And you choose someone who's won before like me, we will win again. We will make Michigan safe again. We will make our kids smart again. We'll make our state prosperous again. And yes, we will make Michigan great again. Thank you and God bless.
Wow. Well, what do you think about these candidates in this debate? Very, very good crop of candidates that we have. It takes a lot to do what we do. It is very difficult. And before I wrap up, just real quick, this is the last debate we're going to do this year, but we will do them next year. And I was just curious, how many of you found out about this event through an email? How about through social media?